Hi, I'm Nadia Kingsley, and I run Fair Acre Press, a small publishing house in Shropshire in the UK. Today I'd like to tell you about a book. I'm so proud of all of them, but let me show you this. It's called Beyond Spring, Wanderings Through Nature, and it is written by the wonderful Matthew Oates, whose book that preceded this and the book that came after it were both published by Bloomsbury. So I was incredibly lucky to snaffle him up. And it's not only me who rates this book. It was shortlisted for the BBC Countryfile magazine award for the Country Book of the Year, and it was also shortlisted for the Richard Jeffries Award. It was also on the Guardian's list of best nature books for that year. It's got some lovely endorsements. Patrick Barkham, beautiful and brilliant. Robert Minhinnig, a great person to go walking with. Mary Colwell, you feel enhanced at the end of every page. Brett Westwood, an exuberant celebration of the British countryside at its joyous, rampant best, interweaving natural and literary landscapes. And that probably, yeah, that is the thing. Matthew Oates studied English, but he was always in love with nature. He is actually the world expert on the Purple Emperor butterfly, but he was also the National Trust's, I can't remember his exact title, but he was basically their expert on nature for years. He's recently retired. And this book, I call it a love letter to nature, because, well, I think that's what it is. He particularly loves woods, but he loves every kind of landscape. And he writes poetry, and he wrote everything in this book in the land, on the land. Each chapter is short, but incredibly rich with language, knowledge, and love. Each chapter starts and ends with either a poetry or a poetic prose quote. Matthew himself recommends it as a book to curl up with in an armchair in the middle of winter when you have forgotten what spring is actually like. I can't believe I forget every year, and then when it comes, it's like, oh, how could I have forgotten it was like this? So this is to remind you and to get you through those dark months, but it can be read any time of the year. There is also, actually, before I start reading a little from it, a limited edition hardcover book. So both this is the hardcover is only available direct from the Fair Acre Press website. This book is available from the Fair Acre Press website, but also obviously from any good bookshop. So I've chosen this chapter mainly because it's one of the shorter ones, and it comes in the middle. Let's see what it says, shall we? It's called Wild Land Dawn, and the quote is, "How is it, shadows, that I knew you not?" And that's by John Keats from Ode on Indolence. It began with an awakening, a rude and yet joyful awakening, at at the imminence of dawn. Somewhere in the distance from the village of Dial Post, a cockerel crowed, once, twice, and then thrice. Then a cuckoo called, beautifully, from a faraway shadowland of oaks in the monastral west. Monastral? Not sure. Out there, shapes and patterns were beginning to form from nothingness, from nebulous opacity, from shadows intensely numberless, heralded by a ghostly light which seemed to come from the ground, for frost had formed over dew-laden grass and was giving rise to a curious distortion of light. Call it lightfulness, even as the frost crystals dissolved back into water. Layers of mist vapours added to the pallid light, added tiers of colourlessness, which changed continuously until colours came into being. All this was seen through the smallest of windows, for such is our experience of the world. Inside a shepherd's hut at Neck Wildland, the air was perishing cold, death-like almost, yet it was moving, as if it was being taken over by some unstoppable force. Something was trying to break in from another dimension. The stone in front of the tomb was being rolled away, presumably by an unseen angel who had stolen in from the great elsewhere. Within seconds, the walls of the hut were vibrating, shaking almost, under the mighty onslaught of what we naively and blandly call the dawn chorus. It was total bombardment, a wall of sound and airwave movement in which it was impossible to separate individual songsters. Here at last was the full unity of being. Dawn chorus is a pathetically inadequate term for this unified eruption of ecstatic joy, for a mass hymn of thanksgiving spontaneously offered by, or at least on behalf of, all life forms. The birds were the choristers, yes, but they were by no means alone. It felt almost as if the earth was heaving, or at least that it wanted to. Sounds were being made that are way beyond the limitations of our hearing and were combining through interfusion to form something beyond our comprehension. We need antennae to start to understand, for so much of what we categorize as being sound is actually airwave vibration, which we perceive only subconsciously. The bird's message was simplified right down into a simple poetic language. Once we suffered winter, now we dance the spring. There is only one thing to do: join in. Here, though, language, even the ecstatic English language, fails miserably. We cannot express that level of joy, that purity of ecstasy, that wondrousness of being, that transformation from being into better being. It is not simply that words fail us, for religion fails us here too. Faith itself breaks down, degenerating into an inadequate framework within which the song dream of each spring dawn can be scarcely experienced. Perhaps nature, which goes beyond right and wrong, perfection and imperfection, and just is, provides a better framework. The pupa case was breaking open. There was nothing left of me. I had grown wings, the wings of today. I flew. On returning from wherever I had been transported to, I scrambled for the solitary book I had brought with me, Edward Thomas's Light and Twilight, and read his unsurmountable description of the dawn chorus. And here's a quote: I knew that multitudinous song, imparadised, remote, serene, only it had never before been so fair, nor had thus changed all the desires and joys of the flesh into this aerial sweetness on keys of ivory and crystal, pipes of reed and gold, strings of gossamer, wreathed horns of exquisite shell, warm throats of beauty, of love, of youth, of joy. It could not know change. It would build fair towers, soaring high into the dawn and into evening, and from their windows would beckon all the lovers of the world and all the minstrels, glad and at ease in eternity. And he wrote that at Shepherd's Hut at Knepp Wildland in West Sussex on the 23rd of May. And what follows is an excerpt from a poem called Chorus by David Morley. The tawny owl wakes us to our widowhood. The dawn is the chorus. The dawn is completely composed. The pen of its beaks are dry. Day will never sound the same, nor night know which song wakes her. So each chapter has a different mood to it, and I actually I just picked that at random. I hope you enjoyed hearing it. I wish I had been able to read it a little better to you, but yeah, I just very happy to have published this. Beyond Spring by Matthew Oates. Thank you.